Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
I never planned to fall in love with my boss, and she certainly never expected to trust a single dad with her heart, or her company. But sometimes life's greatest leaps happen when you're not looking down. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this story of unexpected love and trust in the workplace, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories that'll make your day a little brighter. Now, let's dive into how a metaphorical promise became the foundation for something neither of us saw coming. The first time I saw Eliza Chen, she was standing on the conference room table. Not the behavior you'd expect from the CEO of Horizon Technologies, a woman whose net worth had more commas than my entire resume. But there she was, all 5'4" of her, balancing in heels that cost more than my monthly rent, trying to adjust the projector that our IT department had mounted too high. "Miss Chen, please, I can get maintenance," I said, having just walked in for my first day as her new executive assistant. She glanced down at me, one eyebrow arched. "And wait 40 minutes while they find the right ladder? No thanks." She stretched higher, fingertips just brushing the device. That's when I saw it. The slight wobble in her stance, the table shifting beneath her weight. Without thinking, I stepped forward, hands raised. "Jump," I said, "I'll catch you." The words hung between us. She paused, looking down at me, this stranger she'd hired just 3 days ago, with an expression I couldn't read. Then, to my surprise, her serious face cracked into a smile. "Maybe someday, Mr. Walker," she said, carefully stepping down instead. "But I make it a policy not to fall for anyone I've just met." I felt my face flush. "I didn't mean—" "I know exactly what you meant." She smoothed her immaculate charcoal suit. "And it's good to know you have reliable instincts. That's why I hired you." What I didn't tell her was that those instincts had been honed by 4 years of catching my daughter Lily whenever she tumbled from jungle gyms, bicycles, and her own ambitious climbing expeditions. Single fatherhood had given me reflexes I never knew I needed. I also didn't tell her that I was terrified of this job. At 34, I was starting over after my previous company downsized. With a 7-year-old depending on me and no co-parent to fall back on, failure wasn't an option. This position paid nearly double my previous salary, enough to finally move us out of our cramped apartment and into a real home. "I'm Daniel Walker," I said, extending my hand. "And I promise I'm usually more professional than offering to catch falling executives." She took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Eliza Chen. And I promise I don't usually climb on furniture. Welcome to Horizon." I couldn't have known then how those words, "Jump, I'll catch you," would come to define everything that followed. Working for Eliza was like trying to keep pace with a hurricane. She moved through the world with unstoppable momentum, making decisions in seconds that would take others days, commanding rooms full of men twice her size with nothing but the quiet authority in her voice. "Daniel, I need the Westridge proposal, the 3 Guatemalan quetzals projections, and someone to tell me why our server keeps crashing every time marketing uploads new content," she said one morning, barely looking up from her tablet as I entered her office. I set down her coffee, black, 1 sugar, exactly where she liked it. "Westridge is on your desk, projections are in your email, and I've scheduled an emergency meeting with IT at 11. Also, your mother called. Again." She finally glanced up, the ghost of a smile touching her lips. "Efficient as always, I try. My mother wants to know if I'm bringing anyone to her birthday dinner next weekend. And what would you like me to tell her?" Eliza sighed, rubbing her temple. "Tell her I'll be bringing my work, as usual. It's my most committed relationship." I made a note, trying to keep my expression neutral. In the 3 months I'd worked for her, I'd fielded dozens of calls from Mrs. Chen, all circling the same theme. When was her brilliant, beautiful daughter going to find someone worthy of her time? What Mrs. Chen didn't understand was that Eliza had built Horizon from nothing into a tech empire valued at over $2 billion. She'd done it by working 18-hour days, sacrificing weekends, holidays, and apparently, any chance at a personal life. Will that be all? I asked. She nodded, already absorbed in the Westridge documents. I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me at the door. Daniel? Yes, how do you do it? The question was so unexpected I turned back. She was looking at me with genuine curiosity. Balance work and everything else. I knew she meant Lily. I'd been upfront about being a single father during my interview, prepared for it to be the reason I didn't get the job. Instead, Eliza had simply asked if I had reliable childcare and moved on. Not very gracefully, I admitted. There's a lot of takeout and missed school events. But we manage. Your daughter, Lily. Lily, she corrected herself. She seems well adjusted from what you've mentioned. I smiled, thinking of my fierce little girl with her mismatched socks and endless questions. She's amazing, resilient in ways I never had to be at her age. Eliza nodded, something unreadable crossing her face. You're lucky, I know. She turned back to her work, dismissal clear. But as I closed her office door, I couldn't help wondering what had prompted the question. The first crack in Eliza's perfectly controlled facade came 2 weeks later. I arrived at the office early, a habit formed from years of getting Lily to school before the bell, and found Eliza already at her desk, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Have you been here all night? I asked, forgetting professional boundaries in my surprise. She looked up, and I was struck by the shadows beneath her eyes. The Tokyo deal is falling apart. Their CFO is making noise about pulling out. I set down my bag. What can I do? Nothing, unless you speak fluent Japanese and can convince a 60-year-old traditionalist that a woman half his age isn't going to run his investment into the ground. The bitterness in her voice was new. Eliza never complained about the sexism she faced. She simply worked twice as hard, moved twice as fast, and left her competitors wondering what had happened. I don't speak Japanese, I said, but I do make a mean cup of coffee, and I know where they keep the good pastries in the executive lounge. A small smile. Bribery, Mr. Walker? Sustenance, I corrected. You can't save the Tokyo deal if you pass out from exhaustion. 20 minutes later, I returned with coffee, a chocolate croissant, and a fresh blouse from the emergency wardrobe she kept in the office closet. She accepted them with a nod that contained more gratitude than words could express. The board meeting is at 10, I reminded her. You have time to use the executive shower and change. She took a bite of the croissant, closing her eyes briefly. This deal means everything, Daniel. It's not just about expansion. It's about proving that Horizon can compete globally. I know. Do you? Her gaze was sharp despite her exhaustion. Everyone's waiting for me to fail. They have been since day one. I considered my next words carefully. With all due respect, Ms. Chen, people have been waiting for you to fail for 8 years. You've built this company from nothing into something remarkable. Tokyo would be lucky to have you. She studied me for a long moment. You really believe that? It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. I do. Something shifted between us in that moment. A small recalibration of our professional relationship. She nodded once, then gathered the fresh clothes and headed for the executive bathroom. The board meeting went brilliantly. Eliza presented with her usual precision and authority, no trace of her all-nighter visible. When she announced that she would be flying to Tokyo herself to salvage the deal, the board members exchanged glances, but raised no objections. As we left the boardroom, she murmured, I'll need you to clear my schedule for the next week, and I'll need you to come with me to Tokyo. I stopped walking. To Tokyo? But I can't. Lily, bring her, Eliza said simply. The company will cover all expenses. I need you there, Daniel. The words hung between us, weighted with something I couldn't quite name. I'll make arrangements, I said finally. She nodded, already moving on to her next task. But I stood there a moment longer, wondering what had just happened. Telling Lily we were going to Japan was like informing her Christmas had come early. Real Japan? With ninjas and cherry blossoms and those toilets that talk to you? Her eyes were wide as dinner plates. I laughed, helping her pack her small suitcase. I'm not sure about the ninjas, and cherry blossom season is in spring, but yes, real Japan. Is your boss nice? She asked, carefully folding her favorite t-shirt, a worn purple thing with a unicorn whose sparkles had mostly washed away. Miss Chen? I searched for words a 7-year-old would understand. She's very smart. And very busy. Is she pretty? The question caught me off guard. That's not really. Daddy, Lily said with exaggerated patience, it's just a question. I thought of Eliza's sharp eyes and the rare moments when she truly smiled. Yes, she's pretty. But that's not why she's my boss. Lily nodded sagely. Because she's smart. Exactly. Like me, she added, grinning. I tapped her nose. Exactly like you. Now let's finish packing. We leave tomorrow. That night, after Lily was asleep, I sat at our small kitchen table reviewing the Tokyo itinerary Eliza had sent over. 5 days of back-to-back meetings, dinners, and negotiations. I'd arranged for Lily to join a short international students program at an English-speaking school during the days, but the evenings would be tricky. My phone buzzed with a text from Eliza. Is your daughter all set for the trip? I was surprised she'd remembered. Yes, she's excited. I've arranged daytime activities for her. A pause, then bring her to the welcome dinner tomorrow night. The Japanese executives are bringing their families. It will look good. I stared at the message. Bringing Lily to a high-stakes business dinner seemed risky, but I couldn't exactly refuse my boss. Are you sure? I texted back. Yes. Unless it's a problem? No problem. We'll be there. I set down my phone, wondering what Eliza was thinking. In 3 months, she'd never shown any interest in meeting Lily. Now she wanted her at one of the most important business dinners of her career? The next day, as our plane descended into Tokyo, Lily pressed her face against the window, gasping at the sprawling city below. I felt a flutter of anxiety. This trip could make or break my career, and I was doing it with a 7-year-old in tow. Daddy, look! The buildings go forever. I smiled at her wonder, pushing aside my concerns. Whatever happened, at least I was giving my daughter an experience she'd never forget. The hotel Horizon had booked was the kind of luxury I'd only seen in movies, all gleaming marble and staff who seemed to anticipate our needs before we had them. Lily's eyes grew wider with each passing minute. Do you work in a palace? She whispered as we were escorted to our suite. I laughed. No, sweetheart. This is just for the trip. Our suite had 2 bedrooms, a living area, and a view of Tokyo that made even me catch my breath. While Lily explored every drawer and closet, I unpacked our things and checked my phone. A message from Eliza confirmed the welcome dinner was at 7, in the hotel's private dining room. At 6:30, I helped Lily into her nicest dress, a blue velvet thing her grandmother had bought her last Christmas, and attempted to tame her wild curls. Will there be other kids? She asked as I struggled with a particularly stubborn knot. I'm not sure. Miss Chen said some of the executives are bringing their families. What if they don't speak English? I paused, brush in hand. Then you can smile and nod. Sometimes that's all you need to make friends. She considered this. Can I bring Sergeant Whiskers? I eyed the well-loved stuffed cat that went everywhere with her. Maybe leave him here tonight. This is a grown-up dinner. Her face fell slightly, but she nodded. Okay, but I'll tell him all about it later. Deal. When we arrived at the private dining room, it was already half full with Japanese executives and their impeccably dressed spouses. I spotted Eliza immediately, a splash of deep red in a sea of black suits. She was engaged in conversation with an older Japanese man, but her eyes found mine across the room. With a brief word to her companion, she made her way toward us. I felt Lily's hand tighten in mine. Daniel, Eliza said, then looked down at my daughter. Something in her expression softened. And you must be Lily. To my surprise, she crouched down to Lily's level, extending her hand. I'm Eliza, Your dad helps me run my company. Lily shook her hand solemnly. He says you're very smart. A smile touched Eliza's lips. Did he? Well, he's very smart too. That's why I brought him all the way to Japan. Lily nodded. I'm smart too. I can count to 100 in Spanish. Impressive, Eliza said, and she seemed to genuinely mean it. Perhaps you can teach me sometime. Before Lily could launch into a counting demonstration, Eliza stood and addressed me. Mr. Tanaka is eager to meet you. He's bringing his granddaughter to dinner. She's about Lily's age. I nodded, relieved there would be another child present. Thank you for including her. Something unreadable flickered across Eliza's face. Children have a way of humanizing business. The Japanese value family. She glanced down at Lily again. Besides, she has your eyes. That kind of honesty could be useful tonight. Before I could process that statement, she was guiding us toward Mr. Tanaka, seamlessly introducing us and transitioning into business talk. His granddaughter, a solemn girl named Hana, appeared moments later, and despite the language barrier, she and Lily were soon giggling together over a game involving hand gestures. The dinner progressed better than I could have hoped. Lily charmed everyone with her earnest questions about Japan, and I watched with amazement as even the most stern-faced executives softened around her. Eliza, meanwhile, navigated the complex cultural waters with surprising grace, deferring when appropriate but never diminishing her authority. As dessert was served, Mr. Tanaka leaned toward me. Your daughter, he said in careful English, she has good spirit, very bright. Thank you, I said, feeling a surge of pride. She's my whole world, he nodded, glancing between me and Eliza. Miss Chen, she has no children? I hesitated, unsure how to respond. No, she's focused on building her company. Ah, he said, and something in his tone made me think he was drawing conclusions I hadn't intended. Very dedicated. But perhaps lonely path. Before I could correct whatever misunderstanding was forming, Eliza rejoined us, and the conversation shifted back to business. But Mr. Tanaka's words lingered in my mind. Later, as the dinner wound down and Lily's eyelids grew heavy, Eliza approached us again. You should take her up to bed, she said softly. The meeting tomorrow doesn't start until 9. I nodded, gathering our things. How did it go tonight, with Tanaka? A small smile played at her lips. Better than expected. He's invited us to his home for dinner tomorrow night. A rare honor. She glanced at Lily, who was now leaning heavily against my side. He specifically requested that Lily come as well. I blinked in surprise. Really, really. Eliza's expression was thoughtful. It seems your daughter may be our secret weapon. As we said our goodnights and headed for the elevator, Lily roused herself enough to ask, Daddy, is Miss Eliza a princess? I laughed.